Hello and welcome to the Energy Detox for today, Monday, December 27th, the third day of Christmas. And I certainly hope that you had a fun, festive, family and food-filled weekend filled with plenty of conversations, much of which may have surrounded Omicron and the proliferation of this variant, if you will. And of course, all of the headlines surrounding testing and the availability of testing or the lack of availability of testing, people looking for rapid at-home COVID tests or trying to get PCR tests because, again, things are growing and everybody's getting it and it's impacting everything from sports to family gatherings to whatever else. And so today we're going to take a page from some of those conversations that you may have had about Omicron and COVID and testing throughout Christmas dinner and the days preceding and following and perhaps upcoming this week. And we're going to talk about a quick, simple at-home test that you could take for yourself to determine if you may in fact be a toxic leader. And unlike these tests here, they require no swabs. They don't require you standing in long lines to try to find them, either at some of the free giveaways for these tests or at your local pharmacy or whatever the case is. In fact, this is a simple test that you can administer to yourself in less than the 15 minutes that this takes. And you can have other people administer to you as well, whether you want them to or not. And this simple test surrounds three questions, perhaps the core three questions that I ask on a regular basis, directly or indirectly, to everyone that I work with as an executive coach. And the first of those questions is, in what ways are you stifling the growth of those around you? And this works not just in a professional setting, but in a personal setting as well. Whether you are a parent, a sibling, a son, a daughter, whatever the case is, are you stifling in some way the growth and development of those around you? And certainly in a business sense, the same thing. What things are you doing that are preventing those around you, whether they're employees, whether they are colleagues, whether they're even people above you? What are you doing to prevent them from moving forward and growing and developing? And of course, this is an open-ended question. This could apply to, sometimes as simple as holding people back from going to a course, but in many cases, preventing people from going and taking a new role within your organization that might be good for them and might be good for their growth and development, but might have, some harm on you and your team in the short term. Again, some of those are a little bit more blatant than others. And the goal of this test is to simply ask these questions repeatedly, because again, it's free, it's simple. You can do it at home, you can do it anywhere, to ask yourself and to remind yourself that there are ways that you might be subtly limiting the growth and development of those around you. So that's it. That's the first question of this three-part test, if you will. The second question is, in what ways are you protecting yourself at the expense of the protection of those around you? Again, what are you doing that is selfish and might not be obvious that is helping to protect yourself and fortify your status, your title, your position, your bonus, whatever the case is, at the expense of those around you? And again, there's blatant ways to do this, right? There's blatant ways that you might throw people under the bus and you might kind of push responsibility from yourself onto others. What are the more subtle ways that you're doing this? Are you preventing people from having access to conversations or meetings or the opportunity to present certain findings that they're working on to upper management because you're afraid of something that they might say that might reflect poorly on you? And in turn, again, going back to the first question, stifle their growth, stifle their development, stifle the opportunities for them to develop? Because if you're doing that, you're doing things like that, again, whether it's in your professional life or your personal life, then your protection might be short-lived and you might find yourself in a position where you're not in that, grand title or position or viewed in the same way you are now because of some short-sighted desire to protect yourself at the expense of other people. And the third question for you to ask is, in what ways are your demands and your approach, in what ways are they unsustainable? Can you sustain the momentum of what you've got going on right now? Can you sustain, and can your team sustain, and can those around you sustain, quite frankly, the demands that you're placing on them? And that's not to say, especially in the oil and gas industry, that you shouldn't be placing high demands on people, that you shouldn't be pushing people, that you shouldn't expect the best, and you shouldn't expect people to, work their butts off and to push through and to, give it their all, if you will. That's not to say that. In fact, quite the opposite. In this industry, we expect people to push and to work hard and to pull all-nighters and whatever the case is to get the job done. But the question for you is, in what ways is that approach unsustainable? Whether in the short term or the long term, what damage are you causing because of your approach as a leader, that might be unsustainable. That might not be able to maintain momentum, and in turn, in the long run, not be able to extract the maximum potential from your people and, quite frankly, from yourself. So that's the simple 3 questions you can ask. Again, it takes less than the 15 minutes that a test like this takes. It requires no swabbing, but it can reveal signs that you are in some way, shape, or form a toxic leader, because you are some way stifling the growth of those around you, putting your protection ahead of the protection of everyone else around you, or the ultimate goal that you or your organization or your family might have, and that you might be doing it in an unsustainable way, even if you don't realize that the demands that you're putting on people, quite frankly, are in some cases unnecessary. They're unnecessarily hurtful. They're unnecessarily diminishing of your goal and what you bring to the table and what your people are capable of. So ask yourself these questions today and throughout the next week and the next year, because they're simple, they're free, and again, they can reveal that you might indeed be carrying some measure of leadership toxicity that is unnecessary, and that in the long run is hurting you and your family and everyone else around you. So with that being said, of course, I hope you have a toxic-free next 9 days of Christmas. I hope the rest of 2021 treats you well. And I thank you as always for tuning in and checking out this message. And I welcome, of course, your feedback and your questions regarding how these 3 questions and everything else that surrounds them can impact you and again, those around you. So with that, take care and thanks again.